Captain Jim Fanell joins us. Captain Fanell, and I want to set aside the natural bias you and I have as Pacific Fleet sailors, but look over strategically. You're the best I know at keeping the main thing, that our twilight struggle with the Chinese Communist Party as the existential threat to not just citizens of China, but to the citizens of the world, particularly the United States of America. In what you've seen in the last week or so, and particularly yesterday, and what's forecast for happening on Monday and going forward, where do we stand, sir?
Well, Steve, first of all, I don't think we have to apologize for being sailors in a maritime theater, but that's another story. The most important thing is what we saw yesterday. I woke at 2:30 in the morning here. I watched the arrivals of both presidents. Then I watched the statements that were made in that 12-minute conference or press statement. And I thought, okay, this is a step forward. Then I started turning on the social media and the newspapers, and all of a sudden the only word I saw was failure, failure, failure. And I'm thinking to myself, well, what do you want? You want more death? You've already had 1 million people killed. These are the same people for 35 years that told us we must unabashedly engage with the Chinese Communist Party and give them access to the World Trade Organization, give them access to our markets, and sell our people out for them, and then allow fentanyl to come in and kill hundreds of thousands. So I don't understand. I do understand, because these people are hypocrites, and everything they're pushing is based on their hatred of one man and their love of the deep state and the federal bureaucracy over the Constitution. But what this means in terms of relationship between the United States and Russia and China and the United States is very important. For instance, in this last few months, as you've talked about on the show, the United States sends 2 aircraft carrier strike groups into the Middle East to help the Europeans have their waterway, their key choke point, the Red Sea and the Suez Canal, stay open because of Houthi rebel attacks. While at the same time, NATO nations, the UK, France, and Italy sent aircraft carriers from Europe into the Pacific. What is that about? It's just more of the same for the last 40 years of not really taking responsibility for what's the most important thing in the area where you live. So instead of sending those European aircraft carriers out to the Pacific, why weren't they staying and assisting us and relieving some of our burden to attack the Houthis and open up that critical waterway for them, while our carriers could be out here in the Pacific helping to deter the aggression that we're seeing from the Chinese, like we saw this week? And so I think we're at a point right now where, President Trump is doing what's required to end this war, to stop the bleeding, but more importantly, to get America to be able to shift our attention as our whole of government off of only Europe and get it into focusing on the main thing, which is what the Chinese are doing, and the knife that they have to our jugular vein that they've built over the last 35 years. And it's incredibly important to do that. And for those who would say, well, this guy doesn't really know anything about, Russians and all that. Well, I will just say, when I was a lieutenant, I tracked Soviet ballistic missile submarines. And 10 years ago, when I was the chief of intelligence for the U.S. Pacific Fleet, I tracked Russian long-range bombers that flew 50 miles off the coast of San Francisco when Barack Hussein Obama was president. We didn't do anything about it. So I won't take any of that. We shouldn't take any of those kind of accusations from the likes of Nicole Wallace and these other charlatans. We know what's important. We know that the relationship with Russia is very significant. We know, as Jim Ricker just said, they got more nuclear bombs than we do. So it's a very important situation. But we got to get our act together about dealing with the People's Republic of China. And we have not done that for 35 years. And it's time that we have our whole of government doing that. And President Trump is turning the ship of state towards that. And he's taken arrows for doing what is the right thing for our national security.